All right, take 2, class 17. Presumably, though, we had better examine the universal good and puzzle out what is meant in speaking of it. Now, guys, keep in mind, Plato discussed this thing called the good, right? Mm-hmm. And we had the good in Plato's heaven, amongst the forms. Okay? That's the highest ordered thing. So, he says, this sort of inquiry is, to be sure, unwelcome to us because those who introduced the forms were friends of ours. Still, it presumably seems better, indeed only right, to destroy even what is close to us, if that is the way to preserve truth. Okay, so Aristotle, if you ever see, and I'll show you the video or the picture of Raphael, the Academy by Raphael, and you got Plato pointing up into the heavens, and you have, and he's, and then you have Aristotle standing next to him holding this book, the Ethics, and his hand is down here, suggesting he doesn't believe forms in heaven, but the essences that are, here instantiated in the objects on earth. Okay, all right. So he says, of course, he's going to disagree with him, right? He disagreed with his teacher, which is good. Disagreement isn't always bad. It's just good that he was smart enough to think about these things and disagree. Even if, whether he's right or wrong, that's not the point, okay? All right. We especially do this as philosophers, lovers of wisdom. For though we love both the truth and our friends, reverence is due to the truth first. Those who introduced this view did not mean to produce an idea for any series in which they spoke of prior and posterior members. That was why they did not mean to establish an idea of number for the series of numbers. But the good is spoken of both in what it is, that is its substance, and in quality and relative, and what exists in its own right, that is substance by nature prior to the relative, since a relative would seem to be an appendage and coincident of being, and there is no common idea over these. Interesting. Idea is capitalized. Okay? Further, good is spoken of in as many ways as being is spoken of. That's a translational thing. Ways as being in what it is as God and mind, in quality as virtues, in quantity as the measured amount, in relative as the useful, in time as the opportune moment, in place as the right situation, and so on. Hence, it is clear that the good cannot be some common and single universal, for if it were, it would be spoken of in only one of the types, predication, not all of them. That's pretty difficult, isn't it? Did you read along with me? It's a different translation, right?
Yeah, it was just gonna.
Was it making it difficult?
For me.
It makes it harder to read along.
Yeah, I just prefer listening.
I noticed you. How about you? Did you get a different? What did you see a different translation there? So I read it. Was it?
Look confusing. Like I might just listen. And
Which one was better? Which one would you think would have been a better translation? Read yours.
Let me find where it was. Where from?
Let's start with his discussion of the nature of the good, whether it's a universal, and he's going to say not. So he says, start with subsection 3. If you got it broken into subsections. 6 subsection, where it says, further the good is spoken of in many ways. It should be around between 20 and 25, line 20 and 25, under 6.
I think this might be it. But the term good is used
Yes.
both in the category of substance and in that of quality and in that of relation.
Yes.
And that which is per se, i.e. substance, is prior in nature to the relative. For the latter is like an offshoot, an accident of being. So that there could not be a common idea set over all these goods.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
Further, since good has as many senses as being, for it is predicated both in the category of substance as of God and of reason, and in quality, i.e. the virtues, and in quantity, i.e. of that which is moderate, and in relation, i.e. of the useful, and in time, i.e. of the right opportunity, and in place, i.e. of the right locality, and the like. Clearly, it cannot be something universally present in all cases and single, for then it could not have been predicated in all the categories, but in one only.
Okay. Okay. First, you remember when I was talking to you about universals?
Yes.
Multiply exemplifiable abstract entity, right? Like yellow can be in more than one place at a time.
Yeah.
So yellow is predicated out of your shirt. Your shirt is yellow. Is yellow, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's predicated of this sticky note. Okay, it's predicated of that over there. Okay, you said, okay, now right there, and now you've got the substance of yellow. Seems to be universal. Now he's going to suggest that because you could talk about the word good in many different ways, you could predicate it in different ways, that it must not be one thing. Okay? Say it again. It cannot be a common single universal, right? If it were, it would be spoken of in only one type of predication, not in them all. So he talks about, being God in mind. So God is good, right? In quality, such as the virtues. This is a good virtue, and this is a good virtue. Like, the virtue of, charity is good, and the virtue of, bravery, right, is good, right? And then you go, well, okay, we got different, applications to this, okay? He says, then he goes on and he says, it's useful in time, as, hey, this is a good moment, right? It's the right situation, so on. So he says, because of all that, it cannot be one single substance that's universal. And now, if you're Platonic, you're going to disagree with him, okay? All right, so further, if a number of things have a single idea, there is also a single science of them. Hence, if there were a good idea, there'd also be some single science of all goods. But in fact, there are many sciences, even of the goods under one type of predication. Keep in mind that word predication has to do, when I say predication, I'm usually talking about descriptors, and I usually describe things by use of their properties, their relations, right? Their substances. So the red thing, the predication of the thing is the red. I'm predicating redness to it, okay? The good thing, the good red cup. Okay, predicating a color, a virtue, and a substance of cupness to it. Form, actually. Substance of glass. But in fact, there are many sciences, even among the goods, under one type of predication. For the science of the opportune moment, for instance, in war is generalship, and disease, medicine. And similarly, the science of measured amount in food is medicine, and in exertion, gymnastics. Hence, there's no single science of good, and so no idea, okay? One might be puzzled about what the believers in ideas really mean in speaking of the so-and-so itself, since man itself and man have one and the same account of man, insofar as each is man, they will not differ at all. If that is so, then good itself and good have the same account of good. So good is one thing, hence they will not differ insofar as each is good. Hence there is no point in appealing to good itself. Okay, so if you're a good man, he's gonna ask a question. If you're a good horse, he's gonna go on, and this is where it gets interesting, okay? What makes a good pen?
That it works.
To do what?
Right.
Exactly. Okay, good. Yeah, simple, pretty simple, right? What's a good book do?
One that is not boring.
Huh?
One that is not boring.
So it entertains.
Yeah.
A good book entertains,
Yeah.
if that's its purpose. What if its purpose is to teach?
But it can entertain too.
Sure, okay. Okay, if you're into that, right? But, I mean, a good book can teach you and you can still be bored to tears. Okay? Well, think about that, pens and books and cars. What's a good car do?
It runs. It takes you
Drives.
from one place.
They all have something in common here. I want you to take note of what that is.
They have a function.
The purpose, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, did you catch that? Pens, write, books, entertain or teach, cars, a good delivery. What about a delivery truck that was a Lamborghini Diablo? Wouldn't work too well, would it?
No.
It'd be a nice fancy looking vehicle, but it wouldn't be a good truck.
Mhm.
Cause it's a two-seater,
Right.
very limited space, right? Not gonna be moving a couch with that one. Alright. Keep that in mind, okay? Alright. More of a good itself will be more than a good by being eternal. For a white thing is no whiter if it lasts a long time than if it lasts a day. The Pythagoreans, those were people who worship numbers, would seem to have a more plausible view about the good since they place the one in the column of goods. Indeed, Speusippus seems to have followed them. But let us leave this for another discussion. A dispute emerges, however, about what we have said because the arguments in favor of the idea are not concerned with every sort of good. Goods pursued and liked for their own right are spoken of as one species of goods, whereas those that in some way tend to produce or preserve these goods or prevent their contraries are spoken of as goods because of these in a different way. Clearly then, goods are spoken of in two ways. Some are goods in their own right, and others are goods because of these. Intrinsic goods and instrumental goods, okay? That's basically kind of where it's getting at that. Let us then separate the goods in their own right from the merely useful goods, and consider whether goods in their own right correspond to a single idea. Okay, so he's talking, what is he doing right here? Besides confusing you.
Getting very specific.
Oh God, yeah, you see, it gets very minute. But let me tell you something, that's not just what he's doing. He's asking, what does it mean to be good?
Mm-hmm.
And is the word good a single idea, or is there many? And if there are many, not ideas, if there are different things meant by good,
Mm-hmm.
then we're talking about different things. Does that make sense? But he's also critiquing the Platonic view of the good. That there's this single thing called the good. Okay? That all things that we call good have this in common. Does that make sense? Like saying red. All things that are red have something in common. The universal of being red.
Right.
But he suggested earlier that that's not the case. So he's kind of, all right. How much time we got left? Because I don't want to.
Like 10 minutes?
13 minutes.
I want to skip ahead.
Oh, we got 15 minutes, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to skip ahead to 7. Okay? But let us return once again to the good we are looking for and consider just what that could be. For it's apparent one thing in one action or craft and another thing in another. For it is one thing in medicine and another thing in generalship, right? What does it mean to be a good medicine? It provides health. What is generalship? Providing victory. Okay, if you're a good coach, how do you know you have a good coach?
Your team wins.
Yeah, the win-loss column, okay? That's a pretty easy metric. Good pen leaves ink on the page in the correct way. All right, good. For it is apparently one thing, one craft, another and another, okay? All right, house building, in another case, something else. But every action, decision is the end, since it is for the sake of the end that everyone does the other actions. And so, if there's some end in everything achievable in action, the good achievable in action will be this end. If there are more ends than one, the good achievable in action will be these ends. Our argument then has followed a different route to the same conclusion, but we must try to make this still more perspicuous. And what does perspicuous mean? It is a not so clear way of saying we need it to be clear, okay? So funny. Since there are apparently many ends, and what's an end again?
A goal.
A goal, a purpose. You use the word purpose, and that's what perked me up earlier. That's what I liked about it, okay? End usually has a tendency to imply purpose, design, the what-for-ness of it, okay?
Right.
But the best good is something, the best good is apparently something complete. So the best end is something what?
Complete.
And so, if only one end is complete, the good we are looking for will be this end, the one that is complete. If more ends than one are complete, it will be the most complete end of these. So whichever one is the, which is, interesting that he talks about the degree of completeness. Okay?
Almost like good, better, best.
The most complete. Yeah. Right? We say that an end pursued for its own right is more complete than an end pursued because of something else, and that an end that is never choice worthy because of something else is more complete than the ends that are choice worthy, both in their own right because of this end. Hence, an end that is always choice worthy in its own right, never because of something else is complete without qualification. Now, happiness, more than anything else, seems complete without qualification. Okay, I'm going to stop right there and discuss just for a little bit. Okay, these next 2 pages have a lot of very important statements, I guess, that I will be looking for you to know. I mean, it just keeps going on, though. It gets better. It will get less confusing. I promise you. Okay?
Okay.
But here, let's discuss something. The types of questions I'm going to want you to know. If a general is for victory, right? If pens are for writing, if books are for entertaining and educating, if cars are for driving, what are you for? What type of thing is a general? What type of thing is a pen? What type of thing is a book? And what type of thing are you? You know what a good pen is. A good pen is that which writes. You know that it's good because it writes, because that is what a pen is for. You know it's a good book because it entertains, or educates, because that is what books are for. What does it mean to be a good human? You first need to ask yourselves, what am I for? What type of thing am I? that I could say, I fulfill that end. Thus I am good. If you listen to people, they'll be like, oh, I'm basically a good person. What do you mean by that? Oh, he's a really good person. Is he? Are you a good person? Well, what are you for? And do you fulfill that? And that's a thing that, as you read these pages, Aristotle is going to explore a little more.
So this is something that you want us to answer what Aristotle's saying, not give our own free answer or something.
If you make it up, well, that's fluff. We don't want that. The question is, well, look, I want you to know what Aristotle says for sure. I want to know if you agree with Aristotle, though.
Okay.
Because if you disagree with Aristotle, certainly you feel free to disagree with Aristotle. I mean, he and Plato disagreed. I'm sure, hey, you got two of the greats there disagreeing with one another. Why not? I mean, throw your hat in the ring. But of course, be thoughtful about it. But look at his reasoning and ask yourself. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Just the question itself is rather deep. A pencil's for writing. We've designed it for that, right? Glasses are for seeing. We can tell whether good things based on how well they perform what they're supposed to perform. Now, from a materialistic point of view, one that believes that we are all physical, right? There is no design. You understand that, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
because it would imply a designer.
Yeah. A good mind is designed to think well. Or is it designed at all? If it's not designed, then is there such thing as a good human? Does it make sense to you guys what I said?
Mm-hmm.
Good question though.
Yeah.
I hope this is deep and it should stir you to go, ooh, wow, yeah, what am I here for that I should call myself good? Right? All right, I think we should end on this. Go look at the assignment. It'll have certain questions on there. There will be follow-up questions based on the readings. So that'll be another assignment. Right?